Alright, so welcome back. Today I have another episode of my project bin, which I've got a whole bunch of updates, mostly with rolling stock, to go over. But first of all, I wanted to address two things. Just now, and this is the first time I'm using it, I got a new microphone that clips onto my shirt, so that should actually help noise quality a little bit more. So if you notice that it's better during this video, that's why. And then I thought I'd finally talk about this mat, which you've seen it in a few videos. I said I'll address it in the next update video. It's the next update video. So basically, this mat was on the free table of the club I'm part of. They got a new one because they redid their whole workbench setup, and I decided that this would be a useful tool and took it, and it's been quite a useful tool. And on the topic of useful tools, in that one lot that you saw, if you saw it, it was really long, about 30 minutes of free stuff. I got these cutting pliers. These are actually really, really good. I really like these. I don't know what they are, what they're called, but whatever these things are, they cut really well. I've used them on screws, wires, just about everything, and it just cuts it all effortlessly. Probably some of the best pair of modeling cutting tools I've had. So if I can figure out what these things are called, I'd absolutely recommend getting one. Alright, so to start this off, I'll start with the only thing I haven't actually completed as of right this minute, which is my Rivarossi 240. Well, one of the three. I do have three of these. This one was missing a drive shaft. One of them's a project, and one of them runs perfectly fine. So I actually went online and I ordered a couple drive shafts for this thing, so those should be here soon. And another 240 of mine should be up and running. Alright, so next up is the last engine of this, which, don't worry, there's a lot more than just engines here, which is my second roundhouse shay. I'll take this thing out. But what I've actually done is I've installed a DCC decoder in it. I have not tested the thing out yet. I'm going to be doing that today, actually. I'm going to the club I'm part of in probably 6 hours or so. So we will hope and have our fingers crossed that this thing works and I did all the wiring right. And hope even more that I wired the lights up correctly. But we'll see. My luck with wiring is never the greatest. So, I don't know. And the other thing, this thing's been down for almost 2 years at this point. The connection between the motor and the gearbox, which I'm not taking this shell off, it was a pain to deal with when I was putting the decoder and everything in there. The reason it had been down is because the shaft between the motor and the gearbox, they're different sizes, and from the whole lot of free parts, which, again, there's going to be a lot to talk about those parts in this video, I actually found some connectors of varying different sizes, and I found one that's basically identical to the original roundhouse style of coupling, and I've got a whole bunch of those, and I found two of them with hole sizes that fit perfectly on both parts. So now the thing should run under DC power. I've done that before, just giving power directly to the motor leads, and it runs, which is something that I have not been able to get out of the thing, which is great. So it's running under DC, which means hopefully it'll work on DCC. So with that out of the way, let's get into all of the very many rolling stock updates. The first one I want to talk about is something that's been a project of mine for a while that I just upgraded a little bit. This is a die-cast passenger car. I got this thing a while ago from a train show, which there's a video on it somewhere. If I remember, I'll link it down below, but I probably won't remember. So this thing, quite simply, it didn't have any good trucks, so I threw some spare ones on there. And from the passenger car trucks I got in the lot, I put on a pair of brass ones that actually look pretty good and match the car really well. But this car still does need a whole lot of work before I consider it good. I want to paint all these stairs because they don't have any paint on them. They kind of look odd. And then on this side of the car, this whole area needs to be repainted. So I'm thinking I might just end up taking out the windows, repainting the car body, and then throwing in some new styrene windows. And then after that, this thing should be good to go. So all this is waiting on is for me to buy more paint thinner, which is one of the things I haven't ordered. And I didn't mention, I got these microphones that I'm using now just from a spare gift card I had, and I spent the other, well, that was part of it, and then to use up half of it so far, I bought a whole bunch of new Katie screws, which should make upgrading a whole bunch of my cars to Katie's a lot easier. So, hopefully, I can get this thing done soon and order up some paint thinner. And now I'll go on to the next thing. Alright, next up we've got a kit that I built, which is this Bowser 2-bay, which again, I used metal wheels and Katie's from the lot that I got. And this one's got kind of an interesting coupler setup, just because of how it is. This one's a lower shank coupler. This one's a normal shank. I just had to do that simply because that's how the coupler heights would line up, and it seems to work pretty well. The only issue I've got is there's a little bit of green runoff on here. Really, really hard to see unless I bring it up close. But I might end up weathering this car at some point because it looks really bland anyway. And this is something I said I was going to build off camera and did. So with that out of the way, I've got a few more kits that I built to talk about. So on the topic of kits, I've been building some of the Intermountain kits. I decided to build one off camera just to see how easily it would be. And these things took a lot more work than I was expecting them to. I made some of my own decisions on how I was going to build them. So I'm building these cars, the 40-foot box cars, which I can just show you. This is the first one of them. I believe this is the one I built second. But I've been building these without the roof walk, and I've also been building them with this style of door, which, just in case I need it, it's for my own reference. But I found the first one, it took me about 3 hours to build. And then the other one, it took me probably 2.5, but it still took a while. This is the second one. These two match up. They look really good, and they can probably replace a few other 40-foots once I get all 5 of these done. I've got one more Union Pacific car to build, and I've got, I believe it's a Lehigh Valley and a Canadian Pacific one to build next. So I'll probably build the other Union Pacific one today, and then maybe tomorrow I'll work on the other 2 Intermountain kits. So I'm not building these in a video because it's going to take far too long, and I've done so many kit videos already that I thought I'd give you all a break. Now, the rest of everything I'm going to be going through in this video has a very similar theme. These are all cars that, with the metal wheels and couplers I got from the lot, I've upgraded to have Katie's and metal wheels, which is my ultimate goal for every single piece of rolling stock that I own. So to start, I'm going to go over it with these 2 Fleshman cars. These already had Katie's on them. They're kind of mounted interestingly, but I got these cars a while ago. The video on them didn't do all that well, so go watch that if you have free time, and it's a pretty short video too. But these cars, they're not the most realistic, but they are kind of cool, so I'm just keeping them around for now. At some point, I might replace them with nicer high levels, but hey, if I come across another couple of these for cheap, I might end up having a train of the Fleshman ones. The next car I've upgraded is this old Budweiser Roundhouse car, which I got this. It was from the show of the club I'm part of. This was in their dollar bin, and it was something they were just going to throw out, which I have a whole video rescuing stuff that they were going to throw out from then, and several more of them. So I might link those below. I'm not very good at remembering to do this stuff, but hey, if you want to, you can go find it because there's a whole bunch of stuff in that video. And this thing, I had already put on some, I believe, Easy Mate couplers, so I just replaced those with Katie's and gave it some metal wheels. It's kind of a cool car, and it might fit behind some of my older era pieces of rolling stock. So I'll get some pretty good use out of this as well. Alright, next up is another car I bought at the show from my club. This is a very old Varney Fairmont Reefer, which I got this one for $3. I was going to leave the original trucks, but they weren't going to work well with metal wheels, so I swapped them out. This car is kind of lightweight, but there's no way to get into it, and I don't want to go tearing completely into this thing because of the reason I wanted to upgrade it in the first place. Which I got it with Katie's, by the way, so I didn't even have to do that. But the reason I wanted to upgrade this thing is because of how old it is. I've done some research, and supposedly this car was made in about 1939, which makes it incredibly old, and I wanted it to be something interesting. And if someone asks about it, I can have something really nice to run, or not really nice, really old to run at the club I'm part of, and it can just, and I've had this with other cars, it can be a fun conversation piece. Like, I've got a really old New York Central car, also from Varney, but from the 50s, and that's a fun talking point whenever I run it. So this will be something else sort of like that. And along the same lines of old, I've upgraded this thing to have Katie's and metal wheels. So if you remember, it was just a video or 2 ago, I got this car in a lot from eBay for $40. It still needs a little bit of work, but I said in the video that this was really old Walthers. It's not really old Walthers. This is a really old Globe Models boxcar, which was made sometime in the late 40s or early 50s. It's a brass kit, which is quite interesting. It's a really cool car. I don't have much Canadian National rolling stock either, so it'll fit in and be a usable car for me. It's just really nice. I like the thing, so I've gone in and I upgraded it. To round out the boxcars from this video, I've got this, which is an AHM Borden's Fine Cheese car. I've actually done a whole bunch of this stuff to this car earlier. I swapped out the original clip-in trucks with some, I believe it's styrene tubing, which I glued into the frame. I tapped some holes into and put some screws in with trucks. And I already had put in coupler boxes, but I believe it was McHenry's in here. And the car was also already weighted. I like the cheese car. I've got a couple of cheese cars around because I'm just a fan of cheese in general. But yeah, I've upgraded this with longer shaft KDs, which makes it work pretty well. It's a nice car, and it's got metal wheels now. So hey, it'll be a fun thing to stick behind some trains, and it won't even look all that out of place in some of my older consists too, despite being not the highest end car, which is a really good thing for me. Next up is a little bit of a disappointment of an upgrade, which is this Central Pacific caboose. Because of how the axles are, they actually end up touching the bottom of the frame. But this is a car I was given for free by a member of the club I'm part of, who unfortunately passed away a while ago. He gave me a whole bunch of models. There's a whole bunch of lots of his stuff that I've gotten and talked about before. So there's a lot of it with me, including this car. I upgraded this thing to have Katie's from Horn Hooks, and I put the metal wheels on it, so I can use it at the club I'm part of now. And I can use it here, whatever I want to do with it. I might end up giving this thing to a friend or something, because I don't really need the sheer amount of bobber cabooses I have, because I have this one, I have my powered bobber caboose, which I need to make a new video on at some point, and I've got another one that's identical to this. And I have another one that isn't a bobber caboose, but it's a really interesting style of caboose, and it's a similar size, which I've talked about very briefly in another video, but that thing might need to come up again soon. So for now, this thing will probably sit around until I find something to do with it. The next car I upgraded is this nickel plate road caboose, which I actually did a whole bunch to in a video, which I probably won't end up linking all of them, but we'll see. Check the description if you want to see any of them. But yeah, this one I actually, on a video, I put these windows in, I cleaned out, I added some weight to it, I installed Katie's, and I believe I just gave it a general cleanup. And currently all I did is I threw some metal wheels on here, and the engine I have to run this behind, I can't even run at the club I'm part of. It's my old Riverossi Nickel Plate Road Berkshire. But I have my Baltimore and Ohio set, which, despite this being a nickel plate road caboose, is a lot more fitting than running a Southern Pacific caboose behind it, so I'll probably use this for that a little bit. But hey, it was just an interesting car I had laying around, and I thought I'd upgrade it because it can be of use to me. Alright, and for this video, the last car that I've upgraded is a real oddball, which is this. This is I believe it is a wooden boxcar kit that was converted to a caboose. And this one's a little bit oversized, and I'll just tell you what I've done. I had originally, this was already done, but all I did currently was I just stuck some metal wheels on it. These are 36-inch because the car's kind of big. It's a little bit oversized, and the story behind this thing is I got this in a lot, which the video on that one's done really well. Just for free, that was going to be thrown out by the club I'm part of, which apparently is a common theme, and it was in kind of rough shape. But what this is this is actually kind of a replica of a caboose that is on display near me. That's really odd. And Western Pacific apparently had a few of these. So just for fun, I might run this thing behind my Western Pacific Baldwin. It'll be a fun piece. It's not all that completely accurate because the ends of the car don't extend out anymore. And it's a little bit oversized for scale. But hey, it's a really interesting car to have around. I've done a whole bunch of work to this thing, and I enjoy having it. Alright, so before I close out the video, I want to talk about some stuff that I have not actually done yet, but I'm planning on getting around to. First off, the Intermountain kits. Again, I'm not going to be building those on camera. I've still got the 3 of them to build. I'll probably try and finish one of those today, and hopefully by the end of the week I'll have all 5 of them done. And with that, I could hopefully get rid of a few blue boxcars that I've got, because I'm starting to get a lot of 40-foots, and getting rid of some would probably be nice. So that's going to be one thing to accomplish. Next up, I've actually got the roundhouse flat cars, if you remember those from a video recently, which I got in a lot of a whole bunch of stuff. And I still need to cut down the weight. Once I do that, I'll be building those in a video, which they're bulkheads. I don't have any bulkheads, so they'll be nice pieces of rolling stock to throw on my 70s and 80s era consist. And then I have my brass PAs, if you remember. Those I've decided I'm not going to be building in a video, so that's just going to be something I do in my own free time because I don't want to mess it up. I haven't ever worked on brass before, and I just want to be able to be fully concentrated and not trying to make it any bit entertaining. So for now, those are just going to stay off camera. I do also need to order some DCC speakers, just simply because I want to put DCC and sound in those, because I have some Tsunami 2 Alco decoders I can put in them, and I just need to order up some speakers. So once that's done and I get both the things working, I'll have those DCC, which I will run behind or run ahead of my silver streamlined SP consist, which I've seen pictures. Despite them being daylight units, they did actually pull those consists, so it's not all that unrealistic. And even until then, I do want to upgrade my daylight passenger car set, which I'm just waiting on until I get some more screws and stuff. But that's eventually going to have metal wheels along with Katie's, and I'll probably run that with the brass units at some point. Partly because it would be a little bit funny to have blue box cars behind brass units, but I've seen people do that before. And then another update that I've got to do is I need to order a motor for the 422, which the other one, it's bad. I've talked about it before, and I think the last update video. So it just still needs a new motor. And after that, I might end up putting DCC in that, because that would be a really cool engine to have DCC in. And I think that's about it for all of my projects. I've still got to film the restoration videos from the lot of stuff I got from eBay. Those will probably be filmed soon and coming out in the next few weeks and whatnot. But for now, I'm going to close out the video. So, thanks for watching.